I see that.
Sideways.
I see that. It's like as soon as we say we're going live, then Chris has got to
Do
Hey,
something crazy.
We should all go like that.
grab me. Chris, grab me.
Yeah,
Welcome,
getting
everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're back once again. Second week in a row, we're going through our top. Well, this week will be our top 40 games of all time. Top 40 board games of all time. 40 to 31. I'm excited. Have you guys had a chance to review and do an update from last week and get to see and compare what you got with what everyone else had?
So far, I've had some decent crossover. I'm not sure about checking with the others or anything. I didn't keep up with that, but I've got a little bit with you guys.
Yeah,
Spreading it out. I think so far with IDJ only, but I've got some crossover with Higher Ground Gaming and PhoenixKnight coming up further in the list.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Good to see. You guys having fun doing this? Did you find it a lot of work or did you find it a lot of fun? Did you what Phoenix, talk to me. Was this a lot of effort? Was this a lot of fun? Tell me.
I think a little of column A, a little of column B. Like I've said before, my sample size, given that I only got into the hobby in the last few years, my sample size really isn't that as big as your guys' sample size is.
But every month you're adding 2, 3, 4 new games, and that just expands your. Next year you're going to be looking for 100 game or less. That's what you're going to do next year.
Yep.
Maybe. I'm not too sure about that, just because I tend to be picky about what gets into my collection.
Yeah. Yep.
No silly games.
Are you looking forward to talking about your 10 games this week? Last week I asked you guys this. I'm going to ask you the same question as I asked you last week. Are these 10 out of 10 games? Are these 9 out of 10? Are these like the cream of the crop? I mean, are these games that you would take to a desert island and never, ever leave?
Yeah, maybe.
These are high 8s getting into 9s.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, these are
I've only got about 100 board games anyway. I don't have a whole horrible amount of them, but the ones that I have, by and large, I really enjoy and like. And after a little bit of research, got them for the reason that I thought I would really like them. So we're 8s getting into 9s.
I think for me, this is a section where there's decent potential for movement, just because, again, it's a lot of by default games, just because my sample size isn't that big. So a lot of these are kind of ranked on where I think they are in early impressions. Maybe as I get them to the table more, I could see these moving a little bit more.
All right. So great point. Now, what I'm going to ask you, and I want you to think about this. This is a tough question. Is there one game, 40 to 31, that if you had enough time and you played it enough, let's say 10, 15 times in the next year, this game you got a game that could move all the way down to maybe number 1 or number 2. You got a game? No.
I don't think I do either.
I've got a game that was definitely before in my top 10. It's not there now, but it was at one point.
I've got one that is only going to move up. But the rest of these will probably stay in this area.
All right. Last question before we get started. And I'm just killing a few minutes so everyone can get the thing that sends out a message and says that we went live. Here's the most important question. Do you have any games that are currently in this from 40 to 31 that were ever your number 1 game? Because I actually have one that was my number 1 game a few years ago.
No.
Nope.
No, you guys are nuts.
Not number 1, but number 1 by this particular designer, yes. And definitely probably in my top 10 at one point, but no longer.
I'm going to say yes. But I'm going back about 35 years for it to have been.
35 years. All right.
Yes, for it to have been. Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll say I've got one. Yeah. But I got to go way back for that to have happened. But yeah, I'll go with that.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is good. I like to see that. So I'm going to set up my second screen here. There we go. Lovely.
Kraken.
That is not a Kraken. Oh, my God.
It's Cthulhu, of course.
God,
I knew I was going to say something. I said I'll just let PhoenixKnight.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. The Cthulhu. Yeah.
Right. It is Cthulhu. It is literally. I have. Before we get started, I will show you a few things. So I'm into making my own play mats. Right. So I made this one 2 years ago,
Oh, cool.
Nice.
and
Is that a skirt?
so I've been looking to add to my collection, and of course, I'm thinking of all the pictures that I know of. This is like my number one picture right now.
I do like that. It's very dark.
Where did it go? There it is. Yeah, here we go.
I do like that picture.
So I think that would be great as a play mat. Absolutely great as a play mat.
It's got a lot
You know
of
what I'm saying?
depth.
It's very cool. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. All right, so this week we're gonna have Mr. Lower Slower Board Gamer start us off.
Alrighty. Well, my number 40 game. My brother Ron and I had a friend growing up who was a board gamer back before the internet and Board Game Geek. I mean, he loved playing board games and in-depth board games. There was a game store in Exton, PA. He would go up there and get game components and make games when we weren't spending the weekend at his place playing games and going to church. And my number 40 game is one of those games. It's Fortress America by Michael Gray and Milton Bradley. In this game, you are the United States in a time where the world has taken a Red Dawn style left turn. And everyone is coming to take out the U.S. European, Central American, and Asian factions invade almost simultaneously, and the U.S. is left to fend for themselves. Apparently, we didn't like hockey as much, or Canada might have been at least one ally for us. But the U.S. player needs to fend off invaders until the invaders get to the point where they realize that this is America, and they just back down. But losing the game is a very real possibility as well. So defend your cities, blast the interlopers with lasers, and don't forget the battle cry, Wolverines!
Oh man,
My number 40, Fortress America.
who would have thunk? Who would have thunk that movie? My gosh, what was it? Red Dawn.
Red Dawn, yeah.
Wow, I remember
Yeah.
that one many years ago. Wow.
One in my never-ending backlog of movies I've never seen.
Oh yeah, that was. You were probably just a little young.
Definitely watch the older one. The 81, I think it was. Patrick Swayze and
Yeah, I wasn't
everybody.
born yet.
Yeah, no, definitely 81 was a really good one. I like the remake, but 81, that was it.
Was it Kevin Smith that did the remake?
I don't know. I really
I thought
don't.
he might have been the director.
No.
Not sure.
All right, Phoenix Knight, your number 40.
All right, my number 40 is actually a very simple game that you could probably use to build a backstory for a tabletop RPG, and it's actually one I featured on my channel a couple of weeks ago. That game is Call to Adventure from Brotherwise Games. So there's a very unique mechanic in here of reading the runes. It does take a little bit of getting used to it first, but it's basically, like I said, it's building out your character's backstory. You could use this in combination with the game I'm playing on Wednesday on the channel to actually build your entire character, because in that one, and that's one you'll see later on in the list as well, not this section, but I think it's a section up. But you can build your stats for that same character in that game. So what else did I have on here? Oh yeah, that's all I had really, was just combining it with my Wednesday game to build your character backstory and the unique mechanic in reading the runes.
Do you want to give us the name, or should I just pop it on the screen?
I
He
put
did.
He showed the box.
Yeah.
It was
Call
called
to
Adventure.
Call to Adventure. Yes, sir.
All right.
I think I was going to get this on the channel, and then I saw you do it, so I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I really like that game and the mechanics, and wow, it's so cool. And there's so many cool things you can do with your characters. I know you got a little frustrated with it when you were playing it, but I think great artwork, great production value.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's interesting because you roll runes. You're not rolling dice, and the runes have, two sides.
Yeah.
So,
and like you mentioned, I was having a little bit of frustration with the cards that were coming out because nothing was working for my story. But that's not a knock. That's not a knock on the game at all. That's just sometimes how it goes.
that's just bad luck.
Mhm.
Bad luck. Yeah, agreed. Cool game. I think it's very neat. Very neat. All right, Higher Ground Gaming.
All righty. This is a game that, out of all the games in this list tonight, it's at least crossover with 1, and I think possibly 2, probably has the most chance of any of my games to be a 4-way crossover. I think definitely it could be a 3-way crossover. And that is a game with no luck in it at all. It's a game that's currently ranked number 26 on BGG, number 22 strategy, and it's being re-implemented. And I think it's being re-implemented again, I just saw. And that is Terra Mystica, which I did probably sufficiently explained it. Very little luck, area control, different factions, variable player powers. The game I definitely prefer over Gaia, even though Gaia is more popular. It's just it speaks to me more. I haven't really played much of Gaia, so maybe with a few more plays, I might like it just as much. But yeah, it's a game I'm not very good at, but a game that I definitely enjoy exploring the different factions in it. And that is Terra Mystica.
Awesome. Yeah, I think if of all the games, as you said, it's the best. If there's going to be a crossover, no,
I don't own it.
Oh,
I don't own it.
Oh, no,
you don't own it.
No.
we have a chance.
I thought
then.
maybe we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I know it's part of the. I kind of feel the same way as you. With it, I tend to like it a little bit better than Gaia Project, but it's only because I just haven't played Gaia Project enough. I haven't really explored, and then when I do go to play it, then I have PhoenixKnight just destroying me, just taking me to the cleaners, as they like to say.
Yeah,
that's it. But yeah, great game, great system. And would you say that you think they're re-implementing it again?
Yes, it shows it right on the thing. It says Age of Innovation.
Oh yes, that's right. The new Terra Mystica. Yes.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Now I gotta flip pages here because I'm trying to do this and keep track of my my number 40 game of all time. Bestest game. I play this probably once or twice a year. It is the simplest mechanic. You guys ever play Yahtzee? It's basically the same thing. You're playing Yahtzee, but you're using like resources and stuff. Oh, excuse me. This happens to be D-Day Dice. Great little game. A lot of people doesn't give this much credit, but when you get all the expansions, there is so many things going on. You have different boards you got to go through. You actually have one of the expansions has the landing where you got to take your landing craft through the mines to land on the beach, and then proceed up. And basically, you're rolling dice to try and get equipment and more units, because every time you move your units up, you lose a certain number of them. And I think it's just a great, easy game to play. And as you can see, 1 to 4 players. I think it's like a perfect solo game. You can run it solo, and there's so many cool things you can do. Stacks of cards are like this tall, so like you're only using a few cards every time you play, so you never see the same cards twice. And like I said, there's lots of different missions. I would highly recommend you just get like all the expansions and everything, though, because it does add a lot more than just the base game.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of a commitment to get into. So that's why it's number 40 for me. D-Day Dice.
Ready.
You guys have any of you have that?
No, I had looked at that the other day, but no, I don't have it.
I think my game store still has it. Might still have a copy on consignment. I'm headed up there tomorrow, so I'll have to look then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Like Yahtzee, you're rolling dice, and then you're choosing some of those to re-roll, and then re-rolling them again. And see if they have any expansions. And if you can get it for a good price, pick it up, because I think you might like it.
Cool.
And Edward says it's a fun game. Thanks, Edward.
Cool.
All right. We're in the 30s now.
Number 39.
This is younger than all of us right now. Number 39.
And I've got a little crossover here with IDJ. One of the new games I've played in the last year, and it's a tight little ditty made by Richard Borg and Days of Wonder, and the game is Memoir 44.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to run through all kinds of scenarios, and there are expansions galore. I think this game is out of print?
Just came back into print.
Just came back in print. Awesome. Just came back in print.
Into print within the last 2 or 3 months. Yeah.
Definitely worth looking into. It's a tactical level board/war game, and the core game pits forces of the U.S. Army against German forces in a skirmish by skirmish type of scenario. I really do enjoy the way this game works. I mean, it's not too awful long for each situation, and if you can leave it set up on the table, you just keep on going and going when you come back to it. It's really cool. It's small in scale, but it's not too much to control or maintain. It's also grand in depth and all of the other expansions and potential that this little gem brings to the table. Noise, light, and discipline. Keep it tight, and don't wake Jerry. Memoir 44 is my number 39.
Edward says he loves Memoir 44. Yeah.
It's a good game. It's a very good game. Absolutely. I do like it.
Very good game.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
My number 39 game was actually the 6th game on my first year of the TAC-UP Wargaming list. And I featured it for the namesake's death, essentially. That game is Hitler's Reich from GMT Games, World War II in Europe. Now, this one, the rule book on this one was extremely confusing. I couldn't make heads or tails of it at first until I finally went and found living rules and used that to make sense of it. It's very historically accurate, almost a little bit too much, I might say. There are several different historical scenarios in there, like Barbarossa, and I was actually going to mention if you had the map pulled up for it. I see the replayability as being maybe a little bit suspect here, but the main reason for that is the way I see it, the Axis actually starts the game in pretty much exactly the same way. So if we can go to a top-down view, thank you. So if you notice on the map, you actually have a section where it's very historically accurate, but if the Allies are lucky, they have a somewhat daring route to go straight into Berlin and end the game in 3 turns, if everything goes just right. So if you notice, Yugoslavia basically gives the Allies a 2-territory route to go right into Berlin. Now, granted, there are extra bonus dice that make that not as likely, but again, on everything going just so, you can easily end the game in 3 turns. But my number 39 is Hitler's Reich.
Okie dokie.
All right.
Very interesting. Nice. I'm glad you got it on your TAC-UP Wargaming, and I see you're completing your list first year. You should be very proud of yourself for that. Not a lot of people. You're trying to win a free game. I know what you're after. You're after a free game at the end of the year, aren't you?
Well, I'm mostly trying to explore the genre, but I guess the free game is kind of
little carrot on the end of the stick for you. And you're doing good. You're doing good.
But we got to lean on Legion War Games to get Air Raid Pearl Harbor out.
Yeah. Well, I think you're a lot farther along in it than I am. So, and I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I still can't complete it. So, if you complete it on your first year, you're going to be one of the very few people that do it. So, congrats to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, Higher Ground Gaming.
All right. Well, I'm sticking with the war theme. It's got war in the title. It's based on a video game IP on Steam. It's a very dark game, can be depressing, and very hard game. It's mostly played solo. It does say 1 to 6 players, but I wouldn't play it any more than solo. And that is this War of Mine, the board game. So yeah, very, very. It's got minis in it. It plays just like the video game. If you've played that at all, it's got a night phase, a day phase. You're just struggling to survive during the wartime. You have night raids. You have to go out and explore into different buildings to try to get supplies. Can be very dark at times. Has a lot of stuff you'll look up in a epilogue book and a book with certain events can happen. It can be very, like I said, depressing and dark at times, but very satisfying game. You have to control the characters' moods, their misery, their hunger levels, their sickness levels. It plays. I actually even like it better than the video game itself, but it's got a couple expansions to it, which I don't have yet, but it's a very very satisfying game, made by 11-bit Studios, and that is, it says, "In war, not everyone is a soldier." That's the tagline. So.
I've been meaning to get this game because it's one of those computer games / board games that I think everyone needs to at least try and give, and especially if you're a solo gamer, because it is a commitment, and it makes you realize the genre of board gaming just isn't throwing dice. It's, there you can have so much more with story and emotions and all that. So
those are the games that suck you in, man. They're the greatest when you get invested.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great game. I've been meaning to get it. It's on my list of games to get, and
I got it in a trade.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
My number 39 game. Yes, we're in 39, right? Yes.
Yep.
My number 39 game has been the number one board game on Geek for the longest time. Surprise, surprise, it is no longer the number one board game of all time. It is now dropped to number 2 recently, just this last week or two. I'm combining this with its younger brother, of course. Of course, anyone that's been on Board Game Geek knows it is Gloomhaven. No longer the number one board game of all time. It is dropped. Surprising. Here's what I find very interesting. Gloomhaven was the number one board game for the longest time. Then its predecessor, Frosthaven, comes out, and Gloomhaven drops a spot. Now, what happened there? I think a lot of people saw Frosthaven kind of fix some of the issues with Gloomhaven, kind of tidied up some of the rules and kind of made it a little more, kind of made a slightly better game. And I think a lot of people realized, well, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the game. Maybe this isn't the number one game of all time. So I'm putting Gloomhaven and, of course, Jaws of the Lion together in this group. I think they're basically the same game. One's just a little version of the other one. I think it's a great game. I think it's a great system, but it is another one of these commitments. It is a full-blown commitment to play this, especially if you're going to go through the campaign. I have played Gloomhaven. I got through chapter 1, or first mission, second mission, and then put it away and never got it back out because the box is literally 800 pounds. And then I did the same thing with Jaws of the Lion. I'm like, oh, this is good. This is a little version I can get. And I did like the first 2 missions and put it away and then never got it back out. I need to do it because I hear so many great things about this system. And it's one of these things that people, you love it or you just think it's just too much. For me, it's number 39 because I love it, but it is too much. So I'm kind of right in the middle.
My group's actually playing through Frosthaven right now on Fridays, and maybe I'm just still kind of new to the system, but first glance, it feels like it's just too much for me.
Yeah.
Certainly can feel that way until you get into it. But man, I tell you, the people that get into it, there's probably 100 different playthroughs on the internet. If you watch them, the people that get into them and play them, man, they can sit there for hours and just talk about and talk about each of the cards and know the characters inside and out and just.
Yeah, the only reason why I didn't take with my gaming group is because it only takes about 5 or 10 minutes to get your books out and get your character sheet out and get the dice ready and get the DM screen set up and everything, and then we're just playing D&D.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier.
It is.
Yeah,
that's why it never took off with us. Yeah,
is a lot of people that are into like old school dungeon crawls and things like that, like on the on PC and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. They, for some reason, a lot of them didn't. And they don't have a board game background. They didn't see, a lot of them didn't seem to take to it as much as like board gamers first and then like, dungeon crawl second kind of thing. Just what I've heard. I mean, I don't know how true it is, but
no, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that being the setup time being if you don't have the dedicated space to leave it out. I can see that being a huge inhibition to doing the game. Yeah.
That was my number 39. We are on to 38.
And we've got a little more crossover with Mr. ID Jester over here. Yeah. I have some themes that I really like in board games. I like industrial games. I like tactical games. I like sports games. I like space games. I like games where you really feel like you're being put into a survival kind of frame. And apparently, vineyard games? Viticulture Essential Edition by Jamie Stegmaier and Alan Stone. It's my number 38. And I just got this game a little over a month ago, and I really do like it. Mama and Papa give you what you need to start your own vineyard, and you employ workers to go out and get visitors to come by, plant and harvest grapes, crush the grapes, and make wine types and fill orders. It's not a long game. It's not a short game. It's just about right. And the Automa works very well, as I've only played it solo on normal. But Stonemaier seems to have really knocked it out of the park by and large with their AI Automa factory components for their games. Yep. Fantastic game. Just pop a cork, put on a good sampling party. Don't partake too much of the merchandise, and see if you can create the best vineyard in Viticulture Essential Edition. My number 48.
No, your number 38.
38.
And it was my number 41. So we think alike on this, Chris.
Yep. 38.
Your number 38.
I've actually never played Viticulture, believe it or not.
Excellent game.
It's an old game, and I just got it a month ago, so I'm late to the party myself. But it's like I got to pull the trigger on this one. If you can get the
Essentials Edition, it adds in some of the expansions that really make the game really good.
And it is a fun play. It's a fun play.
And it's a worker placement, so we might see it on Higher Ground Gaming. Oh, maybe we already have.
Nope, you haven't seen it yet. Okay.
Not yet.
Worker placement is one of those things I tend to kind of shy away from a little bit. I don't know why really, but I don't know. Worker placement doesn't really do much for me typically, but I'm slightly rambly here. My number 38 game is one that I've very much been fighting with as I've been trying to make sense of it. I finally had to slow it down and say, okay, we're going to make this game move slightly faster than my dating life to say glacier slow. Finally just walk through everything like baby steps almost, just to try to make sense of it. That game, and I thought this one would actually be a little bit lower on the list, but that game is heavy, but it's Fleet Commander Nimitz from DVG. So admittedly, this first year with my war games have been kind of about trying to find my sweet spots, and the naval battles have been kind of where I've been settling in on that front. So like I said, I'm making more sense of this one, and it's a bit on the big side, but I'm really starting to enjoy it. This is one I could see potentially moving a little bit higher up on the list, where as I start to continue making more and more sense of it, I am starting to put my war game list for 2024 together already. I could see this one landing on it. And I'm going back but the one thing I'll say is with these games, I'm kind of going back and forth on the replayability on these, because this one doesn't really have any extra challenges with it. So I guess I could see replayability being a little bit of an issue in this game, where once you beat a map, you basically don't really have an incentive to go back to it.
There's tremendous replayability. It's just like chess. It's things move on the board, and as soon as they move differently, you're going to have a different setup. So, and it's all random every time. So, I think the replayability you'll find is it's going to be the same thing, right? The enemies are going to go into different locations, but they might go into different, but it's basically the enemy's going to move and you're going to go and attack them. So, I'm surprised you PhoenixKnight have really, you surprised me, man. You introduced board gaming to you not too long ago, and you jumped in with both feet straight in, man. He's trying anything and everything he can get his hands on, and you got to give him credit. I mean, there's going to be some things that you find really difficult and really overwhelming, because that's just wargaming in general. And to jump in really with both feet is really impressive. So I'm trying to do whatever I can to help you out.
Well, a lot of it's for me. A lot of it's helped by basically having like a non-existent social life. So I've got time.
Oh, that's a big help.
Yeah.
That's a big help.
I would like to. There is an expansion for Nimitz that actually makes things a little easier. It came out with the new. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but basically, instead of having those big stacks of ships on the map, you put those big stacks of ships on the fleet cards, and then you just have the one fleet marker on the actual map.
Isn't that like the Yamamoto expansion or something?
Might have been the Yamamoto one, yes.
I think I've got that one. I just haven't cracked it open yet.
Yeah. I was going to say that probably makes it about 20% easier just by doing that, because you don't get overwhelmed seeing all that stuff. And then the other thing is you're moving all those units around, and you have to roll for each one of those units, and you got to stack like this. You're like, oh my God, how many of these, you got to roll, and then you got to move them. If you got them on the fleet cards, you only have to roll for those one fleet cards to move them, and it makes it a lot easier. So
I think that was one of the things that I was initially getting intimidated by, was having that gigantic stack and having to roll like 2 or 3 times for Japan and or some of the other territories.
Right, exactly. And I would also recommend, if I don't know if you've seen them yet, but Stuka Joe has done a couple turns. He didn't do like the whole game, but he kind of shows you how to play. I don't know if you've watched his videos.
That's a lot of how I made sense of how to Fleet Commander Nimitz, actually.
Yeah, great game. So thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We do appreciate it. Eric says the wife is yelling at you, just leaving the game set up all the time. You still got to play some viticulture. Edward says try Dominant Species, Phoenix. You'll probably enjoy worker placement.
Yes.
Mike is here saying that Dominant Species Marine is a better game. And also got to try Dominant Species. There we go. So thanks, guys, for coming out.
Yeah, I've had my eye on the Marine version of Dominant Species, too.
This just in, breaking news. I just won a almost ending option on D-Day Dice on eBay. So I'll have that next week, too.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Nice. Awesome.
Did you just put it on right now?
Yeah.
That was quick.
He was talking about it. I went on Amazon, nothing there. Did mine, went on to eBay. Okay, 13 minutes left. Why not do it?
Nice.
Well, got it. I didn't want to advertise it because I wanted to win it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to tell anybody. So 38 for Higher Ground Gaming.
Okay. I actually have noticed that I have 2 hospital games in this range here tonight.
Well, with all the fighting, you got to have medics.
Exactly. So it's not war, but it's what happens after war. You need a hospital, right? This is a lighter one and there's a heavier one. This is by far the lighter one. It's a Press Your Luck cooperative game. It's by the same publisher as Dawn of the Zeds. It is by Victory Point Games, which can be hit or miss as far as their production value. This is definitely kind of a miss production value, but it's a fun little game. You're drawing cubes out of a cup. Your cubes represent patients. They go to an emergency room, and then you have to admit them and try to cure them. It is called Healthy Heart Hospital.
Nice.
A fun little game. It's you run you can play it solo, you can play it multiplayer, but cooperatively. You play as doctors trying to cure patients. You're drawing cubes out of a cup, and depending upon what colored cubes you draw, it's like you could make a patient worse or cure them, make them better. There's very variable player powers with the doctors. They have special powers where they cure certain patients better. They go on different wards. You have to manage your prestige as well as your income. And if you kill off a certain amount of patients, you can actually lose the game by losing all your prestige. But it is a fun press your luck game where Like I said, patients are represented by cubes coming in the ambulances each round, and it can get really hectic at times. But it's definitely a fun press your luck game. No work replacement in it at all.
But an even worse
Crazy.
mechanic for me in Push Your Luck.
What's that?
But an even worse mechanic for me in Push Your Luck, because my relationship with Lady Luck is, well, I tend to call it a relationship with Lady Luck for a reason.
Yeah. This makes it fun though. It's kind of it's a game that definitely you don't take seriously with this game. I mean, you have one of the doctor's name is Dr. Lucky, Dr. Nowitz.
Nowitz? Oh my god!
So it's got a sense of humor too, which is why I like it. But yeah, that's my number 38,
Awesome.
Healthy Heart Hospital.
That might be my other problem. I have no sense of humor.
There you go.
That could be part of your problem.
Yeah,
could be. You need to lighten up, have a little laugh once in a while, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Come on, smile, Phoenix. I'm going to make you smile before tonight's over. Oh,
you eat too much beef jerky the other day?
How much what?
Beef jerky on his mystical munchies?
I guess. Wow.
I think so.
No, that recipe went
number. What are we doing? Number 38. I can't keep track of everything.
That was
on your
38.
side,
You're
Phoenix.
38.
I got your
38. Number 38. Yes. This is a war game for me. A fictional war game. It's the number 3 war game on Board Game Geek. If that helps you any, try to figure out which one it is. It's a very popular one. It was released by GMT probably 15 years ago. And they've already reprinted it 4 times because it's been so popular. This is Paths of Glory.
Ooh.
Basically replaying World War I in the board game, and it is super, super good. I thought it would have been a little bit lower, but it is kind of a time hog. It says 480 minutes, which is how many hours? 6 hours? I think that's even on the light side.
8 hours.
8 hours.
8 hours.
Yeah.
All right. 8 to 10 hours, I would say, for a full playthrough. And so it's a time commitment. But you got like a Saturday afternoon and a Saturday evening, and you can kill it out. You can probably do it with your buddy. I love the card-driven system. Where your cards are used for your resources. They're also used for your events. They're also used for, activating your units and doing things with them and putting that pressure on you to try and decide what you're going to do with your very precious cards and your very precious turns. And it's just an all-time classic game by Ted Racer. If anyone that's getting into wargaming, it also plays pretty decently solo, which is one of the reasons it's rated as high as it is, number 38, because it does play solo pretty well. You do need to have, like I said, an area that you're just going to keep it set it up for a while if you're playing solo, because you're not going to be able to do, complete it in one day by yourself. But it is for serious war gamers and light war gamers, and it is one of those games that's it's just a classic. Anyone that plays war games had probably played Paths of Glory. My number 38.
Good game. World War I theme. Awesome.
Yep, World War I.
Well, I guess we're doing 37 then, huh?
37.
This is my third combat game in this section so far. And IDJ and his War Room cronies, Tony and Ruff, they turned me on to it. This game is Warfighter, the tactical combat card game by Dan Verson Games. And this is the core European game that I own. And they also make others. But you pick a scenario and you pick your team, you fit them out, and you hit the road. You have a mission that you need to accomplish within an allotted amount of time, or else the battalion is going to have to find another way through. They're all counting on you. And the core game is, as I said, for the European theater. They also have Pacific theater and a more futuristic special ops kind of thing. And expansions out the old wazoo. There's no end to what you can add to this game. It's very modular. It's kind of a hog, but it takes up a little table space. And it says more than one player can play this game. it really shines as a solo game. It really shines as a solo game. IDJ and I tried to play it when he was recovering, and he wasn't up to it, but the game lasted 3 hours, and I felt so bad for him. But it's a fun game. We had a good time. But yeah, it's definitely – I've tried it with multiple players, and it definitely shines at one for me. It's a solo game. My number 37, Warfighter.
Awesome game.
Yeah, I've looked at that one. I think they're planning on coming out with a high fantasy version of it or something like that.
I'd heard that as well. Yeah. I don't remember particularly.
Fantasy Kickstarter was last year. It's supposed to be coming out late 23. So
yeah, I saw some previews of it.
Yeah. They also have a Mediterranean coming out as well. Mediterranean.
Oh, cool.
World War II Mediterranean, because they have
casino and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. They got a Pacific one. They have the World War European one, and now they're coming out with the Mediterranean. So great game. The only thing is I think you're up to 70 some expansions or something with that game.
Oh no, there's over 100.
Wow.
There's over 100. So really, I mean, the big thing with this is you find what interests you the most about it, and that's what you get. I really am a huge fan of the HBO series Band of Brothers. So I got the Shore Invasion, I got the Bastogne, I got the Winter, I got all the stuff that would kind of like follow Easy Company through theirs. And not necessarily just to redo that, like with the Airborne expansion, not just to redo theirs, because there's a lot with the core game. There really is. But if I wanted to, just to be able to kind of like mirror what they might have experienced to some degree.
I looked off and on Warfighter, but I think it was just a problem of it's just too much.
It's a lot. It's a table hog. It really is. There are a lot of small, intricate things that
it can be as. Here's what I was saying about Warfighter for you, Phoenix. I think you would get it. I think you would enjoy it. You don't need anything other than the core box.
No, you don't.
You can play perfectly fine with just the core box. It gives you a lot more options and a lot more things to do. Like, Marvel Champions. Think of it as like Marvel Champions, right? Marvel Champions, you can play the core box and still have fun with it. But if you have all the extra heroes and things, you get to do more things. So it's kind of the same thing.
Right. And given that I'm as deep into Marvel Champions as I am, I probably only need one more game like that. So
true. That's true.
Anywho, my number 37 game is actually, for those of you who are for those of you who have been around my channel for a while, my number 37 game is actually what I call the prelude leg to Christmas in Arkham, where you switch sides and play the cultists and the ancient ones rather than the investigators in Fate of the Elder Gods by Greater Than Games. So it's actually deceptively strategic, I find, where you're moving around the board to various locations, trying to do different things with the goal of getting your ancient ones summoned. So for those of you who are wondering, how in the world is he using this as a prelude game for another thing on the channel? There are actually several ancient ones who cross into the games for Christmas in Arkham. So basically, I set up a tournament with this game to help me determine what my ancient one was for Christmas in Arkham. So let me look at my notes here. Like I said, simple game, but deceptively strategic. And I really like the twist of playing the ancient ones and their cults rather than actually the investigators.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely a cool twist because there's lots of games on playing the investigators and going after the ancient ones. But
and that's a cool twist on that, using one game to create the premise for another one, following it up. That's a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah. I'm actually as a slight spoiler note, and this will make more sense later in the summer, I'm actually going to do the same thing with a different game in the Summer of Lovecraft, which is basically the exact same campaign as Christmas in Arkham, just the summer version.
Cool.
But more details to come on that later.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Number, where are we at? 37 for you there?
37, yeah. So this is the only game I do not have a copy of. I have borrowed it several times from a friend, and definitely game that I get into by Stonemaier Games. And it's a game where you play as a civilization or multiple civilizations, potentially, depending upon what your certain type of cards, which I'm not going to say the name of it because that's the name of the game until now. It's called Tapestry. Again, great super duper production value. I love the little buildings you can get and the technologies you can research. There's basically 4 tracks. There's a military track, a technology track, an exploration track, and I think a science track. And you go up on different tracks. There's an area in the middle where there's area control, which you do exploration and you research. Like I said, you research different technologies. A lot of moving up tracks. These civilizations are asymmetrical. They have different bonuses and stuff. There's quite a few expansions for it. But definitely, I don't know. It's a game I didn't expect to like because I looked at a few playthroughs. I think John Gets Games did one, and I just didn't get it until I actually had a friend that brought it and we played it. It's got a great solo mode to it. It's got a great automa system to it, like a lot of the Stonemaier games. But it's definitely definitely one of my favorite Stonemaier games, if not my favorite. So it's up there. So I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to give away anything, but love the production value in the game. It's just, and I definitely am going to purchase it one of these days soon. So,
okay, I'm glad this is on the list because I have a question for you.
Yep.
I'm always looking for the next game to get right to bring to the channel, and this is brought to my attention because a lot of people like reviewed it and said, "Oh, this is like one of my favorite games, my top 10 game of all time." And I'm like, "Oh, I should look at this game." And then I watched some other people, and they hate this game.
Right.
This game is so divisive. So explain to me, why is this game so divisive? Where people either love this game to death or hate it?
Well, I don't know if I could really answer that for sure. All I can think of is maybe the people that don't like it have never actually played it enough or played it. I don't know. I couldn't go at you with that. I couldn't really answer that. But I do know. I have seen a lot of people do not like the game. In fact, it's one of their least favorite Stonemaier games. But I was like the opposite. Now, just to give you a little preference, I normally don't like a lot of the Stonemaier games. That especially by the ones by Jamie Stegmaier there. I do like the Wingspan and this one and maybe another one, but for the most part, like the real high up ones, I'll mention it, Scythe or Sith. It doesn't speak to me at all. I don't like that game. And so maybe that might be it too. Maybe people that like that type of game don't like the Tapestry type of game. I don't know. Maybe they think it's too much tracks and not and too much luck, but I don't think there's really luck in it. Because there's no dice rolling in it. Well, there is a little bit of dice rolling, but it's not the dice, not like a D6 die. It's like a die with different symbols on it. And there is a little bit with the warfare type stuff. You do a little dice rolling there, but I don't know. I couldn't really explain that, but I do know. I agree with you though. I have heard a lot of that too. Either they really like it or you really hate it. There's not really any middle ground.
I was literally going to buy it, and then I watched a couple people, and they were like, "Man, don't waste your time on this game. It is horrible." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to have to watch this review now." And then I watched the review, and I kind of understood what they were saying, but I've never played it, so I have it's hard for me to.
I thought I would. I thought I really wouldn't like it, and then I just started playing it, and I borrowed it, and I couldn't stop playing it with the solo mode. It has a great solo. I think it has a great AI solo mode to it, where it is really. You do score a lot of points. You score like winning scores are like 250, 300 points. So I guess it is a point salad game to a certain degree, and maybe they used to like the viticulture type games, which are tighter games. Not as high scoring kind of thing. So I don't know if that's it. I don't know.
A little late. If any sports cards and dice games have been mentioned yet? I don't think we've mentioned any yet.
Not yet. No.
Give it a few minutes.
Yep. Give us a little bit. I'm sure I've got at least one on mine. I know Chris has got a couple on his, and Higher Ground Gaming might have one on his. So it's just a matter of time. My number 37 game, 37, is actually ranked 36 on Board Game Geek. So people are a little like this game a little bit more than me, just a tiny, 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 tiny bit, which I thought was really weird that my game ended up being like one off of what everyone seems to think of this. I just recently picked this game up. I resisted for a long time because I thought, doesn't sound very interesting. Yeah, all right, I'll try it, get it, pick it up because it's supposed to be pretty good solo. I'm talking about Underwater Cities, and man, oh man,
Good game.
this game blew my socks off. I play a lot of deep Euro games, and the whole gist of this was there's different colored cards and there's different colored spaces on the board, and if you activate your card and the card matches the space you activate, a green to green or red to red or yellow to yellow, then you get to activate both the space and the special ability on your card. It is really neat, and you're building believe it or not, you're building an underwater city. Crazy, I know. But,
no, who would have thunk?
Whoa, spoiler.
But there's a couple of things you got to build, and underwater science labs will get you different resources, and algae farms will get you food that you need to pay for your people. So it's a little resource management, a little card management to try and figure out which card you activate. There's also some special cards that will give you special abilities that you'll have throughout the game, which will allow you to break the rules. It is really, really cool game.
Yep.
I was very, very pleasantly surprised. I didn't realize it'd be so cool, but it was super cool. That's my number 37, Underwater Cities. And the people agree with me because they rated it number 36.
Great game.
All righty, my number 36 is a long-distance dedication to the kid from Vollmer. That's right, it's our first sports C&D being mentioned in this broadcast this evening. I grew up in Eastern Ohio in the heady days of We Are Family and the dreaded Steel Curtain. And I love reliving my youth when it suits me to do so, going out there in the side yard in 20 degrees and shorts in the snow and playing a little pickup football game with the torn up Nerf football that we'd had for about a year and a half. And we duct taped it together a couple of times because mom and dad couldn't afford a replacement. So when I whip out my number 36, Stratomatic football, all bets are off. Historic teams like the Packers and Steelers, the Niners and the Cowboys, and for you folks who still watch the NFL, the Patriots, the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, line them up and mow them down. Run, pass, blitz, sack, break a tackle, late hit, coffin corner, you name it. All of it happens in this game and then some. I really love this game, and it is the easier of my football games for me to play, but as you will see, not quite my favorite. Spoiler. That does not lessen my love for Stratomatic football right here at number 36.
Lovely game. Our first sports game mentioned today. Nice.
Well, good thing I'm cleaning my glasses because my number 36 game is the only game in this section and the last one on my list that I don't own. This one's a city builder from, I believe it's Arcane Wonders, excuse me, called Foundations of Rome. So you're actually trying to build Rome, and one of the expansions that I really like is the Monuments expansion, where you get to basically put out the various monuments. I think there's the Colosseum, the Parthenon, stuff like that. I'm trying to read my notes here. One thing that to be aware of, though, is it is very much a table hog. So it does get very big, but it actually comes with nice, convenient trays that make cleanup a breeze. And in addition, it's not very solo friendly. So if you're buying this for solo, you're probably better off looking elsewhere.
I think I've seen that one played, though, on the board.
Does it literally come with those super cool miniatures like that?
I think they
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
and what
they
you
just did a
bid on the
Kickstarter on
tiles
it.
with the coordinates and everything, right?
Yeah, you buy the lots.
I've watched this played before. It looks like a fun game. It does. Yep.
Yeah. This was just, I think they did a reprint of it just recently, didn't they? Last couple of years.
Like the last year or so, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about getting it.
Football still learning, but I'm enjoying it. It says Farpoint Gaming Direct. You got I knew he would enjoy that one. Yeah, that's a great pick. Great pick. I've seen that. I've always wondered about that one, if it was worth trying that out. And I love the little miniatures, like all the huge buildings and everything. I'm like, wow, that looks super cool.
Yeah, and basically you're like bidding on the coordinates A through H and 1 through 8, and as you get the coordinates where that matches on your tableau where you can put something down and
Yep.
Nice.
36 there, higher.
All right, this game was actually came out in 2007. Basically put Uwe Rosenberg on the map. The feed your people mechanism was definitely implemented with this game, and a lot of people refer to a very extremely tight game. It was number one on Board Game Geek, like I said, for a number of years. Back in the late 2000s, 2008 to 2011 or 12 for a while. It was number one in that game, and they've come out with a revised edition, which I have in that game. It's called
Agricola.
So if you're into board gaming at all, you've definitely at least heard of this game. But this game definitely put worker placement and tightness, unforgivingness. And this game was actually re-implemented by my number 41, which was Caverna. And a lot of people prefer Caverna more. I actually thought I did, and I actually had a not an argument, but a discussion with somebody in my game group. And when we talked about it, I actually said, yeah, I think I do like Caverna better. But when I did this list here, of course, it never gave a direct comparison between Agricola and Caverna. I probably would have picked Caverna if they would have gone head-to-head. But in the standings, this came out about 5 places higher. But it's a great, extremely tight worker placement game. Tons of card decks with powers in them. I think the original game had over 400 cards. But then in the revised edition, they got rid of the cards that weren't really, they didn't really do much or whatever. And the revised edition tightened things up. They come out with many different decks. But basically, you're managing a farm, you're growing vegetables, it's just hiring workers, that kind of thing. And there are people that it's on BGA, and there are people that are super good at this game. But yeah, this was number one for a whole bunch of years.
Yeah.
But that basically put Uwe Rosenberg and feed your people on the map for and worker placement pretty much too.
Yeah, that's what it did. Yep. And the people agree with you because it's number 43 of all time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's
so
actually
very close to your rating, which is very interesting.
Yep.
My number 36 is nowhere near. It's ranked 2,722. So obviously I'm a little weird and the people don't agree with me on this one. But it's also because this game is brand spanking new. It came out in 2022. Even though it says 2021, I don't think it came out until 2022. I got it on a whim. It's a deck building game because I love deck building games, as you know. You might see a couple more on my list here. But I got this one on a whim because the theme didn't really speak to me. And this game is G.I. Joe, the deck building game. And I'll tell you what, the mechanics in this, there's a few mechanics that this deck builder uses that I've never seen before. Number one is when you buy a card, it goes directly on top of your deck, so you get it next hand. You don't have to wait for it to cycle through, which, doesn't sound like that important, but it is very important because you have, you're on a time limit on getting your missions completed and going up against all the bosses that come out. You got several tracks that are moving along, and it's all scenario based, and the scenarios are kind of random because you'll have like mission 1 will be broken up into A, B, and C, and each section, A has got 4 cards, B has got 4 cards, and C has got 4 cards. So you're only going to see one of those 4 cards in each section, and then you meet the boss at the end. So you can replay that mission several times. And literally the first time I played it, it came down to if I can kill the boss on the very last turn, we're going to win. If I can't, we lose. That's how tight it was. And I found it to be very interesting. And I thought, oh, that was kind of weird. I let it sit for a couple weeks, and then I played another scenario, and I'm telling you, I really like that one too. There's a lot of really good stuff with this game, so I'm very surprised. It's going to be my number 36 game of all time, G.I. Joe, the deck building game. Cool. Unbelievable, I know. What can I say? Deck building game.
Quick 2-minute break.
Sure.
We are halfway through, right? So we did
Yeah.
36, so we'll do 35. So yeah, everyone
Okay.
take 4 minutes. We'll be back in 4 minutes.
All right.
I wonder if I can. Well, thank you, Edward. Thank you, buddy. I'm gonna grab a quick drink and I'll be right back. I need to get a background so I can post it when we go on break.
Yeah.
Back in a few minutes or whatever.
Mm-hmm. We're not gone long though, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, again, I can take over control. Yes, to do. We have the. All right, halfway through there. Oh, I see. Yeah, I see yours. Yep, I see yours. And I'm going to send PhoenixKnight some happy pills.
You're going to get it. You know that. You're going to get it. Take no mercy.
Smile. Everybody smile. Everyone relax. Have a good time. All right, halfway through our 40 to 31s. We're down to number 35.
35.
All right.
All righty. I think I own only one solo-only game, and this is it. At least one that's hit this list. So at number 35, I have Friday by Friedman Freeze.
Awesome.
And people are all over the place with this game. Either you get it and it's cool and it's fun, or oh my God, I hate this game. Why did he even bother? It was like someone said, we need to put something in this box. Okay, put these cards and these markers in there. It'll work. But I really do enjoy this game. It's a card-driven deck builder where you're not Robinson Crusoe, who survived a shipwreck and drug himself onto this island. Yep. You play the role of Friday in a very abstracted kind of way. You have this weekend full that you need to show how to live and survive on the island. and Crusoe has encounters that he needs to pass so that his abilities increase. You make him stronger. You show him how to work, how things work, and give him strength. So that way, when the pirates show up at the end of the game, and they will show up, he'll be able to defeat them and leave the island, and you to your Mai Tai, living in peace, just like before, the way you wanted it all along. My number 35, Friday by Friedman Freeze.
Yep.
You had me until you started talking about Mai Tais.
Well, it can be a poison of choice.
Yeah.
It can be red Kool-Aid. I don't care.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those hit or miss. When he hits, though, they're really good.
Yeah, and this game is a hit or miss, depending on how it hit the person who's playing it. I mean, either people love this game or people just head scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I like it. I enjoy it.
I have a feeling I'd fall into the head scratch category, but that's
and may well, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Anyway. My number 35 game is another of the solo only games. You might have heard me kind of mention this in passing when I talked about an earlier game on the list, but the game I'm talking about this time is Final Girl from Van Ryder Games, where you get dumped into your own slasher horror movie. You're playing the final girl, and you're trying to kill the killer before you get killed yourself. Now, I don't usually go for a lot of slasher horror. I tend to like my horror more of the cosmic variety. But I do like the theme in this one, where it's a lot better implemented than it was in Hostage Negotiator. I actually find for its size, it's actually kind of on the fiddly side is what I'm finding with it, where there's a lot to remember, but it's a very small game. So that I kind of don't like too much.
Do you have all the expansions? Have you tried them all?
I have all of season 1, but I haven't picked up all of season 2 yet, partly because I'm finding it's actually very fiddly for its size, like I said. And just because I've got enough to sink my teeth into with season 1 anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what looks interesting about that is you can mix and match the villain with the different types of heroes, the final girls and stuff like that. And
the setup on that is giving me a lot of Cthulhu Death May Die vibes, where you mix the Ancient One and the scenario and off you go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And they're fairly cheap too, each one, like around $15-$20 for each module or something like that, right?
Something like that. I think the core box might be a little bit more than that, but I wouldn't swear to it.
Yeah. Cool.
Nice. Good pick. Good pick.
All right. Well, my number 35 is back-to-back Ues. And it is kind of like the solo mode plays a little bit like a Feast for Odin. Definitely not as heavy as Feast for Odin. It's a lighter version of that. It's definitely a worker placement game, yes. Great solo mode. You can there's multiple decks you can use and multiple ways the game. It's about fishing in Norway, and that game is called Newsford. And it's a work placement game. You're building a like a map with buildings and stuff. You're trying to build your fishing fleet. You're hiring elders to advisors, kind of thing. You have to feed your advisors as payment for them helping you. There's a lot of blocking in spots, but different buildings come out. It's a very tight little game, but very satisfying game. And the replayability of it is just off the charts with all the different buildings that can come out. You have to figure out synergies. There's basically only a couple different resources in it. There's fish and gold, I think, and wood, and that's it. But it's a very tight little game. It's ranked pretty high. And it's just it's a terrific solo game. And that's my number 35, Newsford.
Yeah, looks like a good one. Looks like a good one. Another Uwe Rosenberg game. Surprise, surprise.
This is
another worker placement game. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I've got 9 Ues in my whole list.
Jeez.
But I've got 11 Felds, so there's more Felds to come. Yeah.
So that's 20 of your 100 right there.
Yep, 20% are Weisenfelds.
Well, I hope Farmport Gaming Direct is still around because this number 35 is my sports game. And this one here is been out since 1951, which is probably already given away. But it's also, I just started playing the Master Edition of this game. And this is APA Pro Baseball. The cool thing is they have a basic version, which you can literally play a whole baseball game in like 15 or 20 minutes. Very simplistic, very easy. And then, of course, you have the Master Edition, which really ramps up the difficulty through the roof. This is 1.88 weight. I think that's for the basic. I would say 3.88 on the Master Edition. It does take a lot of extra work to do the Master Edition stuff. You have to order special Master cards. You have to have the Master Edition rules. You have to have the booklets. But it does give you more options to play. So that is my number 35, APA Baseball.
Cool. Good one, good one. Alrighty, on to number 34. My number 34, my grandparents taught my mom how to play cribbage.
Ooh.
And she taught Ron and I how to play this game, and I so love this game over the years, cribbage. I do not remember a hand in recent years where I did not look at what I was dealt and know visually and instantly what I hold on to or what I put into the crib and what order I play my cards. I could not enumerate the hands of cribbage I've played in my life. But Mom kept it in her beach bag or the picnic box, and wherever we went, whatever we were doing that day, cribbage was always at hand and almost always came out for at least a game or two.
Yep.
Skunked or double skunked, double run a 3 with 7s, 8s, and a 9. Games like this and backgammon dotted my childhood, and will always be in my home and on my list.
How many 19s did you get?
19s. What do you mean?
It's for a score.
I'm not familiar with that. Oh, in a hand?
That's the one you can't get.
Oh, no. 28s. I've gotten 28s.
Right. Yeah, 19 is the hand you can't get. I
want to have to think about that. You got to be able to get 19. I want to have to look at that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one thing I remember about it. Well, that and the perfect hand is the 3 5s in your hand and the right jack, and then the
jack where you get nibs. Yep.
Yeah, nibs is a 5 on the same suit as a jack. Yeah.
Yep.
Just so you know, this is the oldest game on your list. It's from 1630, by the way.
It's a very old game, and it will always have a place on my list. That's why cribbage is my number 34.
It's almost as old as ID.
Almost.
Yeah. My grandfather actually taught me that game when I was 8, and I played it too with my mom.
It's a great game.
My favorite card. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite card game.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of hard to play solo, though, no?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little hard, yes.
But I got people.
You can play 52 pickup by yourself.
No, I generally get through the flicking and then let it sit around for a couple of weeks.
I have crib golf and crib horse racing.
Yes, I have crib golf. Crib golf, yeah.
I enjoy crib golf, the old board game based on the classic card game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Farm Point says I owned every APA game except for APA Pro Boxing, which is pretty hard to find. I didn't even know they made a boxing game. Might have to track that one down now.
Yeah.
All right, Phoenix 34.
My number 34 is yet another war game on this section of the list. I guess that's kind of the theme of this section for me is the war games. This was actually game number 2 on my list that I played on the channel this year. It's another one from DBG and the Commander series, but this time it's Field Commander Rommel that's got our attention. So in this one, you take control of Erwin Rommel in various scenarios. You have El Alamein, D-Day, and the one I played on the channel, which was counted for the list, was Ghost Division. This is one I think I go even more back and forth on than Nimitz in terms of the replayability on this one. But let's see it. So for my notes, I did have it as being somewhat similar to On to Moscow, but I do get a feeling like there's more player agency in this one where you can actually feel like you're impacting the board rather than just essentially having a turn where an action sits for you. And like I said, I go back and forth on replayability on this one because you have the very small number of units that get set up in the same place every single time. So I think this one has a little less replayability than Nimitz, but you guys will probably tell me I'm wrong on that one.
No, I agree with you. I think they have the different campaigns in there, and I think once you go through a campaign, you kind of went through the campaign. It's kind of you could wait a couple of years and then play it again type thing. But yeah, I mean, you're not gonna try and do this one over and over and over the same campaign. I don't think.
Right.
But that's a great game. That's a great game. I'm glad you enjoyed that one, and I'm glad you got out of France because Tony and Dean couldn't get it out of France with Rommel, and you made it out of France as a rookie. So wow, that was awesome. So
that still really surprised me that I was able to pull that off.
It was fun. That was fun. Great game, dude. Great game.
All right.
Yep, you're up.
All right. So this game takes place. It's named after an island in the South Pacific. No, it's not a war game, but it could have been. It could be where the people, soldiers, go to relax afterward. It's in French Polynesia. Of course, it's a Stefan Feld game. Yes, probably one of his most unforgiving games. Is called Bora Bora.
Mm-hmm.
There is actually going to be re-implemented in the Stefan Feld City Collection as Cusco. But it's, of course, a worker placement game, but it's got area control in it, where you're in that middle area is the area control, which you're going to be traveling around and putting you down your different tents. And as you put down different tents for your tribes, you unlock positions which you can hire male or female workers. This dice drafting right here, those are the worker placement spots there. And what's cool is at the beginning of your turn, you roll 3d6 die. And the higher the value of the pips determine the amount of actions you can take. So the higher the pip, generally the more actions. However, if you go to a spot, a worker placement spot, and you put a 1 down, nobody else can go to that spot because they have to have your dice value or lower. There are cards that can break the rule which allow you to go there, but for the most part, it's a lot of blocking, a lot of take that in the game. Very tight Euro game, but very satisfying game. It's just it's beautiful. Got beautiful artwork. Just the game in and of itself. There's cards to it. There's tracks you go up, or priest tracks. It's just those are different cards that break the rules and everything. It's just you have to complete contracts. You can only complete one contract around. It's got some just really neat mechanisms in it, and but it can be a very unforgiving game, but very satisfying game. It's out of print, so that's why they're doing it in the Stefan Feld collection, and they're gonna just make it even more beautiful. And it's a great game that came out in 2013 by Ravensburger, and that is called Bora Bora.
Nice. Cool. Never heard of that one. I'm gonna have to maybe check it out. The artwork is definitely bright on that one.
Yeah, it's if you like blue.
Yeah. Definitely. My number 34 is a war game. I know that PhoenixKnight has played this several times on his channel. I've done it on my channel a couple times. And I think Chris has done it on his channel several times. This is, of course, and I'm combining them into one game. There is the Hunters
Crossover.
and the Hunted. Yes.
Yep.
My number 34 is the Hunters / the Hunted, depending on which one of those games. Great little fun, interesting, chart-driven game where you're basically in charge of your sub and you're trying to sink as many ships as you can before the inevitable comes. And let me tell you, the inevitable comes sooner or later.
Yep.
It's never good ending. It's one of those games like you start off gangbusters and sooner or later something happens. Either a plane comes or a destroyer comes or something bad happens.
This is the epitome of press your luck.
Or your sub is just manufactured like garbage and can't survive test depth.
Oh, what are you diving to test depth for?
I was trying to get away from an escort.
It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a make your story up in your head type game as the dice unfold as you roll. And oh my God, my periscope's out. I'm flooding. I've got no batteries. I've got none of this, and I've got to try and get away from this destroyer.
What's that? Oh, the doctor just died. Great.
So my number 34 is the hunter / the hunted. Both of them in one group. So
/ silent victory / beneath the mid.
Yep. Throw them all in there. Yeah.
All right, 33 group coming up.
33. My number 33. It's another game that I picked up a few weeks ago. It was so simple to learn, and it's listed as 2 to 5 or 2 to 6, I think. And there have been various solo variants made that are all over Board Game Geek. But I played a couple of characters in this game, and after 2 games, I had not only learned it easily enough, but I was able to begin to devise a solo variant, which I use, and it seems to work pretty decent. And at some point, once I really have it nailed down, I'll put it out there. But this game is Roll for the Galaxy by Weiwa Huang and Thomas Lehman in Rio Grande Games. This is a dice chucker, and I likes me a good dice chucker, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, take the dice, you roll, and you and your opponents pick certain actions you wish to do that round, and any actions can be made by any player who assigns some of their dice, because all of the dice are revealed and what actions were chosen, and if you have dice assigned to an action that someone else picked, you get to do that too. You try to settle planets, increase technology, and ship goods produced on planets you've colonized. And it's a really fun and, truth to be told, quick game to play. It is. It's not a heavy, it's not a deep one. It's a good, I think, an intro game perhaps, but, you know, someone who's used to Yahtzee and throwing dice, they're going to be familiar with throwing dice, so maybe they'll kind of get that, you know, and the iconography is not that much to wrap your head around. It goes really well. And I've also heard that if you have a good grasp on Roll for the Galaxy, you would probably be more able to play its bigger brother Race for the Galaxy. But yeah, it's new to me with relatively few plays, but I really like it. My number 33, Roll for the Galaxy.
That's on BGA too.
Cool.
Oh, is it? Nice.
Yeah.
I think I played that like once or twice, and I just never really got the feel for it. But I was also kind of a little sour from Race for the Galaxy, but again, slightly rambly.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yep.
Anyway, my number 33 is another game in the Pandemic system, which I've talked about this before, but Pandemic for me is a series where I tend to look a little bit harder at the theme of the game. This one, I'll freely admit, was mostly a theme purchase, but it is World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King by Z-Man Games.
Yeah.
So you take control of some of the heroes in the World of Warcraft universe, and you're trying to stop the Lich King from basically overrunning Northrend with the Scourge. Now, I played a lot of it when it was in its video game format back in the day. So there was a very good trip down nostalgia for me. But this is one where I think there's really this one, and I know I say this a lot, where there's not a lot of replayability for this game. But this is one where it seems like it's going to be very samey, where you're going to swarm the quests to get them done. Then your team's going to bum rush ICC, Ice Crown Citadel, to get that done. So, and I just don't think the quests really are varied enough that there's a lot of replayability to it. I mean, you'll get the different rewards, but again, it is accessible because it's a Pandemic system game, but like I said, I just don't. Even with the added difficulties, I don't think there's a lot of replayability to this one.
Yeah.
Well, I did see you play it, so I went out and bought it. So don't tell me it's bad. So
I'm just giving you my experiences with it.
Have you played the World of Warcraft, the board game, the original game?
No, I haven't played that one.
Yeah,
Fantasy Fight one.
What's that?
The Fantasy Fight one.
I'm not. I think it is. Yeah. I know.
The big box one.
Have you ever heard of J Play?
No, I haven't heard of J Play.
Yeah, J Play he has a YouTube channel. He's currently doing a World of Warcraft, the board game on there, and he has the Burning Crusade expansion for it. So he's playing with that. It's got some of the best battle mechanics I've seen in a board game. But it looks fun. And if you're familiar with the whole, building a character in World of Warcraft, it's got the iconography and everything just like from the video game. And it looks like a really fun game.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, dice chucking goodness. With an Indiana Jones theme. It is a game by FFP, Flying Frog Productions. It's out of print and pretty hard to find the base game for less than $2. But it is Fortune and Glory. Yeah, it's definitely, if you're familiar with any of the Flying Frog games, it's got the same card mechanics. It's got a really cool, a lot of press your luck stuff in it, but cliffhangers and stuff. Whereas if you have to go and fight villains, there's 3 different factions you can fight against: the mob, against the Nazis, or against the Crimson Hand. Crimson Hand are in a lot of the Flying Frog games, the religious cult. But you play as different heroes, and it's a cooperative. You can play it as cooperative or a competitive game, which is kind of neat. But you basically travel in the world trying to get fortune and, of course, glory. And fortune is actually it's the opposite of what you would think it is. Fortune is actually I believe the money in it, and is the victory points, and the glory is the money in it or something like that. It's the opposite of what you would think it would be. But it's got a couple expansions to it, lots of characters, just really fun dice chucking goodness. And like I said, the cliffhangers are the coolest. So basically what it is you're going to be, those are some of the characters there, Dr. Zukov, and I think an evil character there, another one. But you have to roll a certain amount of successes for like a certain event. Like you may test your agility or may test your cunning or whatever it is, and you have to it might require say 3 5s to pass the test. And you, as long as you roll 1 5 with your agility, if you have agility of 3, you get to roll 3 d6s, and if you get, as long as you get 3 5s or greater, or 1 5 or greater in that one roll, you can roll again. And then once you pass a certain amount of one danger, in order to get the artifacts and everything, you have an artifact at a certain location. You have to pass a certain amount of dangers. And it's really a lot of press your luck. After you finish it and get pass a danger, you get to you decide whether or not you want to camp down or keep going. If you lose all the money that you've gained so far. It's just a lot of it's a really fun adventure game. But if you like Indiana Jones at all, and you like Flying Frog type games, this is definitely a fun game.
Yeah.
I watched this played once. It's got a really, if you get into it, it's got a really good feel like that. There's a good replay for this over on Geek and Sundry's channel, an older video.
Yes.
Week on tabletop, and it looks like a really fun game. It does.
Yeah. A lot of press your luck, fun. Just it's great production value, great.
I looked at this one myself
recently
to try and pick this one up.
It's like a B movie. You're playing a
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And I'm looking for a good little Indiana Jones type, rescue get the objects type missions and all that. So that would be fun.
Yeah.
All right, my number 33 is actually ranked number 13 on Board Game Geek. This is like one of the top games of all time, according to the peeps out there. I think it's really
of the new.
I think it's new to me because I didn't really need it for the longest time. Picked it up. Really good game. There's a digital version of it as well. This is, oops, I got to click over here. Not over here. It doesn't do me much good. Through the Ages. A new story of civilization, or the 4th edition, whatever you want to call it. This is basically Civilization in a box. It doesn't have a great solo mode, but you can play 2-player. Like you're playing solo, you're just running 2 different factions. It is very interesting how you do things with the cards, and you're going to see kind of the same options every game because you're going to go through the ages. You're going to see all the cards in the ages, but they're going to come out differently, which means you're only going to get to choose a few cards and different leaders and different abilities and different strategies to use. And I haven't really even delved into it very much. I got the expansion for it as well, and it adds in new cards to replace some of the other cards, or you can mix and match cards. There's a lot of really neat things you can do with this game. So that is my number 33, Through the Ages. Number 13 all time.
All righty. Down to number 32.
32.
My number 32. One thing that sometimes turns me off to a game is if it is very language independent and it has an Encyclopedia Britannica worth of iconography that you are required to learn in order to be able to play the game with any facility whatsoever.
Got a couple of those.
Yeah. But I got this game, and it's a good mix of size and that darned iconography. It's Tiny Epic Dungeons.
I've got that.
And Gamelin Games. I love this game. I really do. Once you take the 2 or 3 very slow, sloggy plays to get the iconography down pat, not only what the symbols mean, but how they work in reference and in order and be able to read it. It's like learning a small language, but once you get that, it really, really shines. This epic little game takes heroes from the fantasy genre and plops them into a dungeon where they have to fight off goblins and avoid traps while finding treasure and items and spells that will help them take on the big bad at the end of the game. And there's a timer, so you can't dawdle. Like I said, it took 2 or 3 slow plays to really get the hang of it. And they also make a very nice, there's a BGG download for the iconography, like what it means, which really helps you to translate it and get it down pat. But yeah, once you pass that hurdle, it's a really cool little game. Number 33, Tiny. 32. Because it's not 33, because it's 32, because I hit the wrong key when I typed up my little thing on the screen right there. My number 32, Tiny Epic Dungeons.
32.
Delete the 3. It's a 2.
I don't have any of the tiny Epic games. I know there's quite a few of them out there.
Yeah. Mine's still in shrink, so I haven't played it.
It's a cool little game.
Yeah.
See if I can't put
I'm
something
sure it
on
will
the
go up
channel.
on my list if I got it yet.
Yep.
Have you done any on the channel, Chris?
I don't think I've done this one on the channel, so I might have to do that to put it on there.
Yeah, I might have to try it and show me what I'm missing.
Will do.
I do have a couple of Tiny Epic games as well. I haven't put any of them on my channel yet, but they definitely make good weeknight content.
They do. It's just nice, easy, just do something stuff. You want to play a board game, but you don't want to plop down big and crunchy, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you tried the pirate one yet?
Not yet.
That's fun. That's going to be a good one, I know.
I'll have to try that one out. Definitely. I'll take that. Yep.
Right. My number 32 game is actually the last of the war games on the list, and it'll be game 8 on, I think 8 on my war game list this year. This one focuses on the Eastern Front of World War II. This one is Absolute War, the Russian Front, 1941 to 45. So this was another one where the rule book was extremely confusing. But finally, this is one where I just had to sit down and just play the hell out of it, just to be like, okay, this is how everything works out. This is just trying to slow it down and make sense of it. I didn't have to slow it down quite as far as I slowed down Fleet Commander Nimitz, but I did have to slow this one down a pretty good ways. I do like that there's a lot of detail in this game. Also, just being so historically accurate, it's also got various scenarios. In fact, I think this was one of my first exposures to some of the Eastern Front operations, mainly Bagration, which at a 10,000 foot view, admittedly, it's the simplistic view to call it the Eastern Normandy, but that's just kind of what I pulled out of that. But and I like that it's got those separate scenarios rather than just one entire 20 some odd turn game, so you can break it up into those smaller chunks. But my number 32, the Absolute Front, the Russian Front, 1941 to 45.
Man, that is some work there, my friend. Wow, you're putting some work into that. It's some good stuff, though, man. And I'm a war gamer. I don't even play games like that, man. Good for you.
Just in, I just ordered Tiny Epic Pirates.
Good choice. Nice. You won't regret it.
Cool.
Yep. Cool. Tim Sale says a nice pick there, PhoenixKnight.
Absolutely.
Edward says Tiny Epic Galaxies is his favorite of the series. And Farport Gaming says, has Star Wars deck building game been mentioned yet? I'm not going to give away any spoilers. You're going to have to go back and check out things or wait until our follow-up video after we complete our top 100. We'll go over everything and we'll review what was on our list. And we'll go through that then.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm probably sounding like a broken record here, but it's another worker replacement game.
And another news,
Stefan Feld.
And another news, water is wet, fire is hot, and acid burns.
Whoa. All right. It's a game that has a unique mechanism in it, and that is a Mancala system. Those of you familiar with Mancalas. It's the only board game I've ever seen that has a Mancala in it. It's a lot of people's number one Feld, and that is Trajan. It's basically a series of mini games where you're operating as the Emperor Trajan, and the Mancala. Yeah, if you go back to that one you just showed, that's the Mancala system there. And what it is you start with different colored cubes in each bowl there. And then if you're sure you know how Mancala works, you pick up however many cubes or whatever in one dish, and then you go clockwise around it. And whatever dish you end up in, that's the action you're going to take. You can get a Trajan tiles, which will give bonuses, which you can put into those dishes around them. And that'll activate either victory points, extra workers, different things. You're going to be building buildings, going off to conquering territories, doing some shipping actions where you're shipping goods. You're going to go up on I can't remember what the name of the track is called. I think it's a voting track where you council track, I think it is, where you're going to try to get the most number of votes in the council and therefore unlock end game scoring tiles. It's got a timer track depending upon the number of players in it. But the Mancala system is just super fun. Every round, this I think takes place over 4 rounds, and after every round, you're going to be different demands come out from the people. There's going to be demands on like religious demands or games demands or food demands. The people want to see different things, and you have to satisfy those demands or potentially lose a victory point. So it can be punishing at the same time, but you can get points in a number of different ways, and it's just it's a really satisfying game, and the Mancala system just works really well in the game. So that's number 32, and that is Trajan by Stefan Feld.
Yes, I was going to say, you don't see that mechanic is not used very often. So
no, surprisingly, yeah, you would think it might be in more, but
yeah, and it's I'm glad you brought that up because on Saturday's War Room show this coming Saturday, we're going to be discussing game mechanics that work in Euro games that would work in war games. So I might even bring up that mechanic on Saturday and talk about the Mancala. And see if would that work? Would you be able to use that and moving your little pieces around in there to represent, how you get your orders progressed down the chain of command,
And what's interesting about the Mancala system, depending upon how many cubes you pick up and place around it, like some place you can do as many as low as 1 or as high as like 6 or 7, will determine how fast the round ends, because however many cubes you pick up and put in different things, that's how fast the tracks move down below. So that can either speed up the game or slow down the game, depending upon how people are doing that. So that's kind of neat too about that.
Yes, I'm definitely gonna be talking about this on Saturday for sure. I'm glad you brought it up. That's a good point. Awesome. All right. I'm glad we kept you around after all. So my number 32 is another one of my combined efforts here. This is a group of games. They're basically the same system. It's a war game. Yes, it's a war game. Another one on my list. I know I'm crazy. I have 3 in this group. This is basically a chart-driven to get your results, kind of like the Hunters, but this one is bombing the Reich in World War II. This is Targets for Today. Target for Tonight is another one of the games in the series, and there's also B-29 Super Fortress, which are basically all the same kind of things. You send your bomber out on a mission, you go out so many spots, you drop your bombs, and you come back. Well, every spot you go to, you're going to roll on the charts to see if the enemy sees you and if they show up and what kind of planes show up and what kind of planes are going to shoot at you. And, it's just a lot of fun to just hang out and go through these missions and try to get your bomber to get from point A to point B. And I actually had assigned all my subscribers were part of my crew on the ship, and each one had their own spots, and then each bomber that was in our formation was named after a different subscriber, and it's a lot of fun to do that. And it's like another one of these theater of their mind type games, right? And so far we've gone to, it's like one of these things. Like the second mission we ever went on, we went to the Lorient subpens in France, and we tried to bomb it on the second mission. We only got 20% success on it. So we only did a little bit of damage to them. Like 5 missions later, they randomly again, because we're rolling this big chart, and we randomly rolled the Lorient subpens again. And so in my mind, I had said that we didn't do a good enough job of taking the subs out. And so they're sending us back to do, to finish the job and everything. So it really added to the story element. And that's one of these games that, just like the Hunters, you can get into your plane and your crew and trying to keep everyone alive and making it through 20 missions, which doesn't sound like a lot, but is super hard. Super, super hard. And so that is my, what is it? 32.
32.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Target for today, target for tonight. Perfect, says Tim Sales. Farpoint Gaming says target for today. Yep, it's revamped B-17 Queen of the Skies for sure. Yep, that is mine. And we're down to the final one for today. Whoa.
31. Alrighty, my number 31. And for all you purists out there, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Deal with it. I've been pronouncing it wrong for 35 years, and it's not going to change. APBA football. I can say APA. I know how to pronounce it. APA, 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 APA. But I say APBA. Accept me into your community or don't. I don't care.
You do care.
Oh, maybe a little. Now, growing up in Ohio, Mom used to take Ron and I to the barber shop downtown when our mains got a little on the mangy side, and they always had all kinds of magazines spread out waiting for patrons to peruse. And I remember they always used to have the Small Football Digest magazines, and on the back cover was always this game where you are the head coach. And there were 4 cards for Fouts and Brooks and White and Dorsett. Imagine getting to play football with your favorite teams and your favorite players. APBA weighs in as my number 31, and I still have those result boards. You know, the big, heavy cardboard boards that with which you could shingle a doghouse. And honestly, I can find results for a football play on those boards faster than I can reading a strat card, because some things you just never forget. I know exactly where to turn to it. I mean, I have such facility with those cards, and sitting in a dark closet with a single light bulb swinging overhead, back and forth, rolling dice like some freaky old dude. I've spent countless hours playing APBA football, and I know it will stay on my list for the eternity of time. My number 1, APBA football.
Wow. APBA football. So APBA made it on the list for several of us today. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's pretty interesting. All right. APBA it is.
We've talked back and forth about this, Jester, but I've been debating getting into some of the APBA games. I just can't ignore the expense of them, though.
You cannot. It is expensive. It
can
way
be very
more than they
cost-prohibitive.
should be.
Yeah.
But there's ways around that. We'll talk about it offline, but there's ways around that. There's a lot of people that sell their stuff. A lot of people will literally buy APBA for a tournament. They will go out and buy it, and they'll use it for the tournament, and then they'll sell it because they're not going to do it. They're going to use a different team.
Right.
So
you're thinking about APBA baseball?
Hockey is the one that's kind of catching my eye.
Okay.
Yeah, I got my app up. I got one season. I got 1978. That's it.
Good one.
Yep.
Anywho, on the subject of sports games, to the surprise of, well, probably everybody in this channel, I do actually have a sports game on my list, and I usually when it comes to sports, I tend to turn to consoles for my sports fix, but this one I've kind of been liking, and I think part of it is because of how I've chosen to get serious about working out. The game for this time is Title Bout 2 by Straight Jab Media.
Good
So
one.
it's a boxing simulator. It seemed a little complicated at first glance. It's starting to grow on me, though, the more I've played it. Of course, it didn't help that my first channel fight was Mike Tyson against Muhammad Ali, and Ali decided to employ a rather unique strategy of stopping as many punches as he could with his face. Didn't work that well for him, spoiler alert. But this is one I could actually see climbing as I continue to dig into it. But
I know you have asked me for a request to have me try it and see if I get kind of the same results as you, and that's still in the back of my mind to do someday. So I'm hoping to do that for you, Phoenix, because I'm interested to find out if I would get the same result, or if I would get something completely different. So that would be interesting to try out for sure. And I'm glad you're trying some sports games, my friend. There's some other ones that I think you should try as well.
I've been digging into some of the Downey games, but there's something to be said, though, for the kind of the more detail-oriented aspects of Title Bout 2. I'm kind of digging into the idea of doing a boxing league in combination with Main Event Boxing from Downey Games and Title Bout 2, but I'm still working through the logistics of all that.
Okay. That's a good one for sure. Title Bout 2.
All right. Well, to finish out my list, this is the heaviest game I have on tonight's list anyway. Might be the second heaviest, I think. Second or third heaviest in my whole list.
It's a beast.
It's a beast. Yeah. It's got many expansions to it. They just did a reprint of it, and they redid it with artwork by, if you're familiar with board game artist Ian O'Toole, very renowned board game artist. Definitely brought this game to life. I have another one of his games called Tramways on it. It's by Elvin Viard. It's a deluxe edition. That is Clinic. I had the original game, sold it because I knew this was coming out, and Basically, you're managing a hospital, hiring doctors, nurses, assistants, trying to
Are you
cure
hiring
different.
Dr. Lucky?
No, this is the serious version of it. But it's very. If you've ever played 3D tic tac toe or something like that, it's you're designing a hospital on a 3D grid, so it's a little weird to see. I don't know if that's the main board there. There might be some other things on it too. It's like they probably won't be able to find one, but yeah, that's kind of it a little bit. But anyway, I'll just explain it. It's basically you're building a hospital and on different floors, and the floors around it, you can only have certain rooms around certain rooms. You can only have certain rooms on top of certain rooms. You have to have rooms underneath in order to build on top. You have to account for parking for cars for not only the doctors and nurses but the patients also. So there's a whole parking mechanic in it. It is a time system in it too, where you're trying to each space you move to try to get the doctor in or the nurse in or the patient in uses a time mechanic, and you're trying to minimize the amount of time it takes to get through your hospital and everything. Super strategic, super just thinky game. Your brain will definitely hurt after this one. But it's a super good game. They have a COVID expansion. They did one on COVID. Yep. But Elvin Viard, everything takes place in what's called My City. I think it's a small city or something like that. All of his games are in the same universe type of thing. He's a French designer, produces his own games, and has his own publishing company. It's just, but the tool artwork in it just really makes the game shine. So if you like really crunchy, just deeply thematic, brain burnery games, this is definitely one too. It's called Clinic.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
It is a thinky one for sure. Sure.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those. Oh man, what am I gonna do now?
Yep. Yeah. It's got a great solo mode in it too.
Sounds like a good way to punish myself for a weekend.
Yeah, exactly. That is.
Yep.
My number 31. It's interesting that this game ends up on the same list as Gloomhaven, and the reason for that is it is the board game that has taken Gloomhaven's number one spot of all time now. And I'm using a series of games. Well, actually, there's two different games I'm putting into one category because they're basically the same game. The number one board game of all time, according to the people out there, number 31 in my universe, is Brass Birmingham.
Good game.
Yes.
Good game.
Excellent game.
And I guess there's also the version that I tend to like just slightly better than this one, and that is Brass Lancashire. And I'm going to say it just like that because I know it pisses rough swordsmen off.
It's Lancashire.
Lancashire.
I got
you.
I got you, IDJ.
Lancashire. I got to give it that southern accent, so that would drive him crazy if he
Lancashire.
You have to like the color purple, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is all about resources and getting your resources once you produce them out, to the world and getting the most out of them. Like if you sell your resources for like one goal or one money, then you're not getting the most out of them. So, and of course, how you build and where you build and everything. There's a super good AI that they've now developed for this, and we've had the world premiere of playing Brass Birmingham remotely here on my channel. Is myself and Lower Slower Board Gamer got together and played it remotely. He ran his units over on his side on his board, and I ran mine over here on my board, and we just had the camera on the boards as we played through it. And it is the number one board game of all time according to the people. I really think it's a great game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it number 1, but I'm going to make it number 31.
Doesn't it come with the poker chips too?
That is I think
No, it does not.
Starter expansion thing. You can get them, of course, if you
Yeah,
have
because
any,
my
you
buddy
can
had it.
use
He had
them.
those.
Yeah, you have to order them separate, but yeah.
Right.
I
yeah,
use
he,
my own
He got the
poker.
clays with it.
Yeah, the clay poker chips.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great game. I love it.
Yeah.
There is our list from 40 to 31, folks. Wow, that was awesome. Great going. Good variety, except for one of us had the same game over and over and over again. But we won't talk about him much.
Here we go.
So next week, let's see what's going up next week is 30 to 21. Can you believe we're 30 to 21? 30 best games of all time. I got
Getting down to
3
the nitty-gritty.
war games. I got
Look at my
another
tentative list.
I got another sports game on there, 3 war games. Oh man, I got so many good games on there.
I got 1 sports, 1 traditional, and getting into the newer games. 2 traditional, I guess you could call. But yeah, good list coming up. I'm liking it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I did. I had a game that I recently played, and I'm not going to talk about it, but I had it on my list, and I had to edit my list because after I played it, it dropped a couple spots because I forgot how finicky it was. Well, not really forgot about it. I just realized it's a little more finicky, and maybe it shouldn't be my number a game of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I've only got 1 felled and no ues in the next 10. So,
really,
are
you feeling okay?
I had to save those for 1 through 10. You know.
Right. I was going to say 1 through 10 are all going to be the same.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
How about you, Phoenix?
I've got 1 war game on my list, on that section of the list, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's probably more traditional board games in the world I kind of have stepped into.
That's why I asked you guys earlier if, because I just happened to glance at my list and I realized that not only did I have Brass Birmingham, but I also had Gloomhaven in this section, and I thought, wow, that is like the number 1 and number 2 board games of all time. And I thought, wow, I wonder if anyone else has, the number 1 or number 2 board games of all time.
No, and along with that, what I said earlier about soloable games, 6 of the 10 coming up are really good soloable for me. So again, that's a theme that's concurrent in my series. Yep.
Awesome. I do have my favorite Flying Frog production game in the next 10.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it right up there on my shelf. I just got it the other day.
What's that?
The game you're going to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't. Did I do an unboxing of it? I did it during the war room on Saturday because I just got a package in on Saturday, so I opened it up. By the way, I should mention for you guys, last Saturday on the War Room, and PhoenixKnight will attest to this, we had a little competition for everyone to pick the winner of the Kentucky Derby, and those that would pick the winning horse, I was going to send a game out to, and we were going to let all the subscribers. Phoenix, were you in that, right?
No, I wasn't actually in that. I was off at my local game store playing Ark Nova on Saturday.
Sunday or Saturday? No, Saturday.
Saturday.
Oh, you weren't there, or were you? Bummer. Well, anyways, I'll spoil it for you. So before we let all the subscribers pick their horses, we picked our horses. I picked number 8, who ended up winning the race.
Oh, how thoughtful of you.
Right. So I don't think anybody else picked my horse, so I think I win my game. Yay!
Yay!
I don't think you're eligible for that.
Disqualified. Staff of the War Room are not eligible to receive prizes.
Yeah, probably.
It's in the bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I can't believe we're down to 30 left already. Wow, that is
tonight awesome. During the broadcast, I purchased D-Day Dice and Tiny Epic Pirates. During the broadcast.
Nice.
Games
That's
happening.
Some dedication.
Games happening.
All right.
Yes.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if you can pick up a few more next week on the ones that we
Hey.
talk about. Oof, I got so many good ones coming up next week. I can't wait to talk about them.
We're getting good.
We're getting down to the really good nitpicky ones. Yes, for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming back out and checking out our little video. We'll be back next week. Tim Zales and Farpoint Gaming, Edward, Meandering Mike. Let's see, Mike Butter Jelly, E4 Airman, William Arnons, Eric C. Let's see if I missed anybody else. I don't
Edward
think
Lasso.
So.
Yep.
Edward. Yep. Thanks for coming out and checking out. Don't forget, leave us a like on the way out the door. Be sure to check out and subscribe to all these fine channels, all three of these gentlemen. Make sure you subscribe to their channels. Give them a like on their videos. You know, we're all just little channels. We're just trying to make our way through life. And
this is like Hollywood Squares.
I'm sure, yeah, definitely check out their stuff.
Now, don't get me started on Paul Lind over here.
He picked up Reincarnate. I lost. Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyways, guys, we'll be back next week. Same time, same channel, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to count down 30 to 21, as Chris does.
3.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
See you, everybody. Thanks
See
for
you
watching.
guys.